Jalen was the type of human who loved to fix broken things, even if he didn't understand them. On the joint colony of Velro 7, humans and aliens worked together in peace, building a future from the ruins of ancient civilizations. Jalen wasn't a soldier or leader. He was just an engineer with a habit of working late, surrounded by wires, tools, and mysterious alien technology. That night, the research lab was nearly empty. The only sounds were soft clicks from Jalen's tools and the hum of the relic on the work table. The object in front of him was strange, shaped like a starfish made of smooth crystal with glowing lines running through it. The Zalari scientists had found it deep beneath the sands of Sector 9. Nobody could explain what it was, but Jalen had offered to take a look. He adjusted his goggles and leaned closer. Power regulator. Broken. Signal pathways. Damaged. He mumbled to himself, tapping on a small interface panel. Wait. What's this setting? His screen displayed a symbol he didn't recognize. Still, curiosity got the better of him. He activated the setting, thinking it was a diagnostic mode. The relic beeped softly and the glowing lines shifted color, from blue to soft red. A small pulse of energy spread from it, so quick and harmless that Jalen barely noticed. He frowned, wrote down the change in his notes, then leaned back in his chair. Probably just an energy test pattern, he muttered. He had no idea what he had actually done. A few minutes later, the door slid open, and Lyra stepped inside. She was quiet. As always. A young Zalari assistant, she often brought reports from her department to Jalen. Her skin was a pale purplish blue, and her elf-like ears twitched slightly as she moved. She didn't talk much. Most humans made her nervous, but she never seemed afraid of Jalen. These are the latest scans, she said in a soft voice, placing a data pad on his table. Jalen smiled, not looking up. Thanks, Lyra. Just give me a second. This relic's acting weird. As she stood near the relic, a tiny spark flashed from the object. Neither of them noticed that the glow flickered, and a soft hum passed through Lyra's body. She paused, for a moment blinking but said nothing. She quickly left the room, not even saying goodbye. Jalen finally looked up but found himself alone again. The next morning, Jalen walked into the lab sipping his coffee and reading messages on his tablet. He barely noticed the buzz of conversation happening in the halls. People were talking quietly. Something. About a Zalari girl and a strange change. He didn't think much of it, until he saw her again. Lyra stood near the equipment bay, holding a clipboard. But she looked different. Slightly taller, maybe. Her posture more confident. And her skin shimmered with a barely visible layer of light, not glowing, just faint like moonlight on still water. When she turned and saw Jalen, her eyes widened, and her face turned bright red from the cheeks to the tip of her ears. She gasped, dropped her clipboard, and hurried away so fast it made Jalen take a step back. What was that? He whispered to himself. All day he couldn't stop thinking about it. He searched the relic's system logs and found the exact moment he had changed the setting. Only minutes before Lyra entered the lab. The logs confirmed an energy burst had activated. It wasn't a diagnostic. It was a biomodulator. A what? He said, blinking. The screen explained that the relic was designed to enhance specific genetic traits, but only for beings with Zalari biology. The pulse it released had been aimed outward, and Lyra had been in the perfect spot to receive. Jalen froze. I enhanced her? Suddenly everything made sense. The changes, her reaction, the red face. He had accidentally triggered something in her biology, and he had no idea what the effects would be. Okay. Stay calm. I just need to tell someone. Maybe the science team, he said, standing up. But deep down, Jalen wasn't just worried about science. He was worried about Lyra. She had looked shocked, embarrassed, maybe even scared, and somehow he had done this to her without meaning to. He looked down at the relic, then back at the door she had run through earlier. I have to fix this, he whispered. What he didn't know was that the change couldn't be undone so easily, and it was only the beginning. The morning after the strange incident, Lyra didn't feel like herself. As she stood in front of the mirror in her room, she gently touched her cheeks. Her skin still felt warm, and that strange red tint hadn't fully gone away. Zalari skin didn't usually blush, at least not like this. She had read about humans, doing it when they were embarrassed or emotional, but it was rare for her people, and yet, her face had gone bright red just from seeing Jalen. Lyra placed her hand over her heart. It was beating faster than usual. She remembered the moment in the lab, the soft pulse of energy that brushed against her skin, the way her chest had felt light, her senses suddenly sharper. At the time, she thought it was just nerves, but now she knew something had changed. She sighed, picked up her datapad, and forced herself to go to work. In the lab, Jalen sat alone, watching the security footage from the night before. He paused the video at the exact moment Lyra stepped into the room, just as the relic released the energy wave. The timestamp matched the energy spike in the system log. There was no more doubt now. "I did this," he whispered. He hadn't told anyone yet. If the council found out, he could be blamed for tampering with sacred Zalari tech. Worse, if Lyra was hurt in any way, he'd never forgive himself. The door slid open and Lyra stepped in. Jalen looked up quickly, unsure what to say. "Lyra, are you okay?" She froze when he said her name. Her face turned red again. I think something's wrong with me," she said softly, keeping her eyes down. "My body, it feels different." Jalen stood up slowly. "Lyra, I think I know what happened." He carefully explained everything, how he had accidentally activated a setting on the relic, thinking it was just a diagnostic. He didn't expect it to do anything real, and he never meant to cause harm. Lyra listened quietly. When he finished, there was a long silence between them. "So, you enhanced me?" she finally asked. Jalen scratched the back of his head. "Not on purpose, but yeah, it looks like that." She nodded slowly, then looked down at her hands. Her fingers moved slightly, and she noticed how much more graceful her movements had become. "I don't feel sick," she said. "Actually, I feel stronger. Like, I can sense things more clearly. My vision, hearing, even my balance. It's like I'm becoming more alive." Jalen was relieved to hear that, but he still looked guilty. "Still, I didn't have the right to change you. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." Lyra shook her head. "I'm not sure I want to fix it." That surprised him. She took a step closer. "For most of my life, I was considered weak, too shy, too quiet. I was never chosen for warrior training, never sent on missions, but now, people are noticing me. Even the elders looked at me differently this morning." Her voice grew softer. "And when I saw you, something in me reacted. I don't understand it yet, but I think the enhancement didn't just change my body, it woke up something deeper." Jalen didn't know how to respond to that. He looked at her, standing there with her cheeks still red, and realized how uncertain she must feel, caught between fear and something new inside her. Before he could speak again, the door burst open. It was Commander Oren, one of the senior Zalari officers. His eyes narrowed when he saw them. "Jalen, Lyra, the council wants to speak with you. Now." In the main hall of the colony, the atmosphere was tense. Lyra stood beside Jalen while the 5 members of the Zalari Council sat in a half-circle, above them. The council was made up of respected elders, wise and stern. One of them, Elder Varan, leaned forward. "We are aware that an ancient bioenhancer has been activated, and we know who was exposed to it." Lyra lowered her eyes but didn't speak. Jalen stepped forward. "It was my fault. I was working on the relic and triggered something by mistake. I didn't know it would activate. I'm ready to take responsibility." The council whispered among themselves before Varan spoke again. "You are a human. This technology was not meant for your kind. Yet, it responded to your touch. And it has now altered one of our own." Another elder added, Such a change is not just physical. The enhancement is a rite, an awakening. It is sacred. And now the old laws are in motion. Jalen looked confused. What laws? Elder Varan replied slowly. Lyra must now undergo the rite of challenge. It is tradition. Those who are enhanced must prove themselves worthy, or be rejected. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. And, Varan continued, she cannot do it alone. She must choose a chosen witness, someone to stand by her during the rite. According to what has happened, the only one eligible now is you. The room fell silent. Lyra looked at Jalen. Her face turned red again, but this time she didn't look away. Lyra sat quietly in the small garden behind the council chambers. The wind moved gently through the tall silver grass, brushing against her skin. She wasn't shaking, but she felt like she could. Inside, her thoughts spun in every direction. She had never imagined this. An ordinary day, delivering reports, a quick moment in a lab. And now, she had been enhanced by ancient technology, and the council expected her to face a sacred tradition that only high-status warriors attempted. The rite of challenge was not a simple ceremony. It was a physical and mental trial, one that tested strength, decision-making, and heart. Most Solari trained their whole lives for it. Lyra hadn't trained for anything like that. She looked at her hands again. They didn't look different, but deep inside, she knew they were. She felt it every time her senses sharpened, every time her heart raced, and every time she thought about the human who had caused it all. Jalen. He hadn't meant to change her. She could tell. The way he looked at her in the lab, the way he took the blame before the council. He was sincere. He cared. That alone confused her more than anything. She didn't expect a human to take her side. She didn't expect anyone to stand by her. And now, she had to choose. Jalen walked slowly down the path that led to the garden. He had been given permission to speak with Lyra before the council finalized the challenge location. His mind was spinning too. He had read everything he could find about the rite. It wasn't just about helping Lyra pass a test. It was about being her witness. That meant he would walk every step of the trial beside her. It was symbolic, yes, but also deeply personal. The witness wasn't just a friend or teammate. It was someone she trusted with her life. When he reached the garden, he paused. Lyra was there, sitting with her legs tucked beneath her, looking at the horizon. She turned as he approached. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held something deeper, uncertainty, maybe even fear. "I guess you heard," she said softly. He nodded. "I did. They want me to choose a witness," she added. "You already know who they meant?" "I do." She looked down. "You don't have to. Say yes." Jalen stepped forward and sat beside her, careful not to get too close. "I don't have to," he said. "But I want to." That made her look up. "I caused this even by accident," he continued. "But more than that, you're not alone. You don't have to face this alone." Lyra's hands gripped the edge of her tunic. "What if I fail?" "Then, we fail together," Jalen said. "But I've seen how strong you are, Lyra. Not just because of the enhancement, even before it. You showed up every day even when people overlooked you. You did your job quietly, carefully, with heart. That takes strength." She didn't say anything for a moment, then she whispered, "I've always felt small, like I was just background noise. This change, it's scary, Jalen. Because now, people see me. They expect things. They want me to be more." He smiled gently. "Then show them the real you, not just the enhanced version." Lyra blinked back sudden emotion. Then she gave a slow, careful nod. "I want you as my witness." Later, that evening, Lyra visited the Zalari medical wing for a final evaluation. A healer scanned her, then gave her a long, thoughtful look. "The enhancement is deep," the healer said. "It activated dormant parts of your DNA, abilities that were passed down through generations but stayed hidden in you." Lyra looked, confused. "But I wasn't from a warrior line." "That's what they believed." the healer said gently. But bloodlines are strange. Sometimes the spark skips generations, and sometimes it needs the right trigger. Lyra's eyes widened. Jalen, yes, the healer confirmed. The relic responded to his touch. That is rare. Very rare. The healer leaned closer, lowering her voice. Lyra, be careful. The council may not say it aloud, but some among them are troubled. A human activated our most sacred relic. You, stepping into the right is more than a trial now. It's a statement. Lyra felt the weight of the words settle into her chest. Then I won't fail, she said quietly. Meanwhile, in his quarters, Jalen trained. He wasn't a fighter, but he still wanted to be prepared. If he was going to stand beside Lyra, he wouldn't be dead weight. He studied old logs of the Rite. He learned how Zalari walked the trials. He read about terrain changes, mental traps, and emotional tests. But most of all, he thought about her. The way she blushed. The way she stood a little taller now. The courage in her voice when she chose him. She's not the same girl who dropped off reports last week, he whispered to himself. She's becoming something powerful, and I'm lucky I get to witness it. The next morning, the announcement was made. The Rite of Challenge would begin in 2 days, and for the first time in Velro 7's history, a Zalari girl enhanced by ancient tech and a human engineer would face it, together. The day before the Rite of Challenge, the colony buzzed with whispers. Everyone had heard the news. An ordinary Zalari girl, enhanced by ancient technology, was about to enter a sacred trial, and standing with her was a human engineer. That alone made people talk. Some were curious, others were angry, a few were afraid. Lyra walked through the main corridor of the science dome, holding her datapad tightly. Every few steps she could feel eyes following her. Normally she would have lowered her head and walked faster, but now, something inside her told her to stand tall. She didn't know if it was the enhancement or something deeper. All she knew was that she had made her choice. She would face the challenge, and she would do it with Jalen. But before the trial, she had one more thing to say. Jalen was in the lab, checking the maps of the trial grounds. The terrain was rough, a mix of rocky hills, deep caves, and shifting paths. The trials tested not just strength, but wisdom, trust, and endurance. He had gone over every file he could find. Still, the thought of something going wrong made his stomach twist. The door opened behind him. He turned and saw her. Lyra stepped in without speaking. She didn't need to. Jalen could tell by her expression. She had something important on her mind. I need to know something, she said softly. Anything, he replied. She walked closer, stopping a few steps away from him. Why did you try to fix the relic? It wasn't your job. It was ancient, dangerous. Why didn't you leave it alone? Jalen didn't speak right away. He set down his tablet and looked her in the eyes. Because it was broken, he said simply. Lyra frowned. But you didn't know what it could do. No, I didn't, Jalen admitted. But when I see something broken, I try to fix it. That's who I am. I didn't know it would activate. I never meant to change you, Lyra. But I also didn't want that piece of history to sit in the dark forever. I wanted to understand it. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't careful enough. She listened closely, her expression calm. But, Jalen added, I don't regret meeting you, or standing beside you now. Lyra's eyes softened, and for a moment the tension left her shoulders. I was scared, she said. Still am. But I think, if this had to happen to me, I'm glad it was you who did it. That made Jalen smile. Same here. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Lyra reached into her satchel and pulled out a small silver crest. It was shaped like a flame, the symbol of the Zalari Rite. This is for you, she said. The witness always wears this. Jalen took the crest and nodded. I'll wear it with pride. Later that day, the council gathered Lyra and Jalen to prepare for departure. They would travel to the trial site by transport ship, then walk the final stretch alone. The council members gave final instructions, but Elder Varan spoke last. "Lyra," he said, "you are about to step into a path that few have walked. Some may doubt your right to be here. Some may doubt your companion's place, but the right listens to no voice except truth. It sees what's inside." Then he turned to Jalen. "And you, human. You are not Zalari. You are not bound by our traditions. Yet you have chosen to walk beside her. That choice will not be easy." Jalen bowed slightly. "I'm ready." The sun was setting when the small ship landed near the trial grounds. The land stretched wide and wild, untouched by technology. Deep cliffs, rising stone pillars, and ancient symbols marked the edges of the sacred site. Lyra stepped out first, feeling the wind rush against her face. Her heart beat fast, but her legs stayed strong. Behind her, Jalen followed, carrying a small pack with basic supplies. They had one night to rest. The rite would begin at sunrise. That evening, they made a small fire near a rock shelter. They ate quietly, watching the stars appear above. "Do you think we'll pass?" Lyra asked. Jalen thought for a moment. "I think we'll face it together. That's what matters." Lyra looked at him, her eyes reflecting the firelight. "I'm not just doing this to prove something to the council," she said. "I'm doing it for me. For all the times I stayed silent. For all the times I was told I wasn't enough." Jalen nodded. "Then you've already passed the hardest part." She smiled, small but real, and as the fire crackled beside them, a quiet bond formed between a human engineer and an enhanced alien girl, one built not by accident, but by choice. The sky turned orange as the sun slowly rose over the trial grounds. The air was crisp and quiet, almost like the land itself was holding its breath. Lyra stood at the edge of a stone path carved into the earth long ago. Her clothes were simple and light, made for movement, while a silver mark now glowed, softly on her shoulder, the sign of the enhanced. Beside her stood Jalen, adjusting the strap on his pack. He wore a simple vest and boots, and the silver witness crest lay over his chest. Lyra took a deep breath. "Are you ready?" Jalen gave a small smile. "I'm not sure, but I'm here." A soft hum came from the stone totems standing nearby. They lit up one by one, signaling the start of the rite of challenge. The first part of the trial was the path of endurance. It was not just about walking, it was about surviving. Lyra and Jalen climbed steep hills, crossed shallow rivers, and passed through thick patches of alien vines. The terrain shifted often. Rocks were loose, the wind was strong, and the heat of the rising sun made every step harder. But Lyra felt different. Her feet moved more easily. Her balance was sharp. Even when a branch snapped under her boot, she caught herself without falling. She was stronger now, not just physically, but inside too. Jalen, though sweating, kept up. He didn't complain once. Every time Lyra looked back, he was there, just a few steps behind. They stopped near a large stone arch to rest. Jalen sat on a rock and drank water. "You're doing well," Lyra said, handing him a cool fruit she had picked from a safe plant. "I'm just trying not to slow you down," he joked, breathing heavily. "You're not," she said firmly. "You're part of this, don't forget that." Jalen looked at her for a moment, then nodded. "Thanks." The second part came faster than they expected. As they passed under a stone gate covered in old markings, a deep sound echoed through the air. The path of truth had begun. Fog rolled in suddenly, thick and white. Jalen reached out to grab Lyra's hand, but she had already disappeared into the mist. "Lyra?" he called. No answer. He stepped forward carefully, the fog swallowing every sound. In the mist, both of them were alone, but not truly. Lyra walked forward slowly. Shapes moved around her. Memories. She saw her younger self, standing at the back of a training class ignored by instructors. She saw moments when she stayed quiet, even when she wanted to speak. "You're not strong enough," a voice whispered. "You're not brave. She froze. Then she whispered, "That's not true anymore." The image faded. She kept walking. Jalen faced his own test. In the fog, he saw flashes of home, Earth, his small apartment, the people who once laughed at him for taking a job on a colony far away. "Why help her?" a voice asked. "She's not even human. You don't belong here." He clenched his fists. "Maybe I don't," he said, "but I'm not walking away." As soon as he spoke, the fog thinned. They found each other again on the other side. "Are you okay?" Jalen asked, out of breath. Lyra nodded. "Yes, that was strange, but I think I passed." "Me too," he said. "Barely." The final part of the day led them to an open field. In the center stood a tall stone pillar with ancient carvings. This was the path of choice, the last step for the day. A voice echoed from the pillar. "You may rest, or you may continue. The right will pause if you are weak, but those who push forward are remembered." Lyra looked at Jalen. "We can stop here. We've earned it." He wiped his forehead. "You're the one in the trial. I'm just the backup." She shook her head. "No, you're my witness. This is our challenge." Jalen took a breath, then smiled. "Then let's keep going." They climbed a narrow path behind the stone pillar. The sun began to dip lower, casting long shadows across the ground. Near the top, they found a resting place, an old stone platform, with a clear view of the valley. It was quiet, peaceful and untouched. They sat down side by side, watching the colors in the sky. "We're not done yet," Lyra said. "No," Jalen agreed. "But today you proved something." She turned, to him curious. "You're not just enhanced," he said. "You're brave, yo. You faced the fog. You faced your past. You made the choice to keep going." She looked away, cheeks slightly red. "You're stronger than you think," he added. She didn't answer, but her small smile said everything. The fire they built that night was small but warm. It flickered between them just like the bond they were building, step by step, trial by trial. A dark sky hung above the canyon, and the wind began to howl again. Lyra and Jalen stood near the edge of a steep trail, looking down at the winding path below. The trial wasn't over yet. One last valley stood between them and the final circle. But the weather was changing fast. A soft rumble rolled through the sky. "A storm is coming," Jalen said, tightening the strap of his pack. Lyra looked up at the clouds. "We need to move quickly. This path will be dangerous when wet." Without waiting, she started down the trail. Jalen followed, careful with each step. The air grew colder, and the first drops of rain began to fall. The trail narrowed between two large rock walls. Water flowed between the cracks. With every step, the ground turned softer, slippery. Lyra moved fast, her enhanced balance helping her keep steady. But Jalen wasn't so lucky. His boots slid once, twice. He caught himself both times, but it slowed him down. "Be careful," Lyra shouted from ahead. "I'm trying," he replied, wiping water from his eyes. Then it happened. A loud cracking sound echoed through the canyon. Lyra turned quickly, just in time to see a large piece of the cliff above them break loose. A huge boulder came tumbling down toward Jalen. "Jalen!" she screamed. Without thinking, she ran back up the path. The boulder bounced, kicking up mud and stone. Jalen turned, eyes wide. He had no time to run. Lyra pushed him hard to the side, both of them falling against the wall of the canyon as the boulder crashed past them, landing with a heavy thud below. Mud splashed around them. Lyra lay on top of Jalen, breathing fast. "You okay?" she asked quickly. "I think so," he said, heart pounding. That was close. She helped him up, brushing dirt from his back. Too close. They both looked down at the path. It was now blocked by rocks and broken branches. The way forward was still open, but harder now. "We can go around," Lyra said. "It'll take longer, but we'll make it." Jalen nodded. "Let's do it." They climbed over roots and through thick brush, soaked from the rain. The storm was fully here now. Thunder cracked above them. Lightning lit up the sky. But even with the storm raging, neither of them stopped. Lyra led the way. Her body moved like it knew what to do. She didn't slip, she didn't fall. She was in control. Her heart was focused, not just on the path, but on keeping him safe. Jalen followed her every move. His body was tired, his legs were heavy, but his mind was clear. He wasn't just walking a trial now. He was walking for her. By the time they reached a small stone shelter carved into the side of the valley, both were soaked and shaking. The cave was dark but dry. Lyra lit a small fire using materials from her pack. The light danced across the stone walls. Jalen sat close to the fire, holding his hands out. Lyra looked at his arm. There was a long scratch from when he fell earlier. Blood had dried there, mixed with mud. She pulled out a clean cloth. "Let me help." He didn't argue. She cleaned the wound gently, wrapping it with care. "You always know what to do," he said softly. "I just follow my heart," she replied. He smiled. "Then your heart is smarter than mine." She looked at him, her eyes softer now. "You could have stayed back. You didn't have to come this far." "I wanted to," Jalen said. "You matter to me, Lyra." She blinked, cheeks turning pink. "And I mean that," he added, "even before all this. Before the relic, the rite, and the council. You mattered." Lyra looked down, shy for a moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. "Thank you," she whispered. That night the storm kept roaring outside, but inside the small cave the fire kept them warm. They sat close, sharing food and quiet words. Lyra leaned her head against Jalen's shoulder. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. He stayed still, letting the silence speak for them. The next morning, the storm was gone. Only mist floated over the trees and rocks. They stepped outside together. The path ahead was clear. Lyra took a deep breath. The final part is close. Jalen looked at her with pride. "You're ready." She turned to him, her eyes steady. "We're ready." And together they continued forward. Two different beings from two different worlds, walking side by side, bound by trust, courage, and something even stronger than fate. The path ahead was quiet. Lyra and Jalen walked slowly through a smooth valley that opened wide under the morning sky. The clouds were beginning to break, letting soft sunlight shine through. The air was calm. Now, no wind, no storm, no shaking ground. Only peace. But in Lyra's chest, her heart beat fast. They had reached the final stage of the rite of challenge. A circle of ancient stones waited in the center of the valley. Inside that circle, the final part of the trial would take place. Not a test of strength or survival, but a test of truth. This was called the Stone of Declaration. Every Zalari who passed the previous trials had to stand in the center of the ring and speak aloud what the transformation had awakened in them. It had to be honest, it had to be real, and it had to be from the heart. If the stones accepted the words, they would glow with a silver light. If not, they would stay silent, and the rite would end in failure. Lyra stood at the edge of the circle. Jalen stood behind her just outside the stones. He was not allowed to speak now. His part was over. Only the enhanced could complete the final step. She looked back at him. He gave her a small nod. No words, just support. Her feet carried her into the circle. The moment she stepped in, the air changed. A low hum vibrated under her skin, as if the stones were listening already. She stood at the center, her body still, her mind racing. But then she closed her eyes, took a breath, and let everything go. When she opened her eyes, she began to speak. "I was not chosen for this," she said, voice calm but clear. "I was never seen as strong. I was always the quiet one, standing in the back, doing what I was told." She looked at her hands. "But something inside me was always waiting, not just for power or strength, but for someone to believe in me." Her eyes lifted to the sky. This enhancement woke up something inside me, but not just muscle or speed. It woke up my courage, and it showed me that I can be more, that I am more. She looked at Jalen now, and it showed me what it means to be seen. Truly seen, not for what I can do, but for who I am. She paused. Jalen stood with me through every step. He fell. He bled. He faced danger. And he never gave up on me. I don't know if that makes me stronger or just lucky. But I know this. Without him, I would not be here. She stepped forward, her cheeks red but her voice steady. My declaration is this: I accept who I was, I embrace who I am, and I choose who I will become. I choose to rise. The ground was quiet. Then, the stones began to glow. One by one, they lit up in soft silver light, circling her like stars. The hum grew louder, then softer like a heartbeat. Jalen watched with wide eyes. It was beautiful. Lyra stood in the middle, the silver light wrapping around her like a gentle wind. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting it wash over her. The rite was complete. She had passed. Later, back at the colony, the news spread quickly. Lyra, the quiet assistant, had passed the ancient rite with the help of a human. Some were surprised, others were unsure, but many were inspired. She didn't care what they thought. What mattered was what she had done, what she had faced, and who had stood with her. That evening, Lyra and Jalen walked alone by the lake near the outer fields. The water reflected the stars above. Everything felt calm again, but different, better, stronger. Jalen looked at her, still amazed. You really did it, she smiled. We did it, he chuckled. Maybe I was just lucky to witness history. She stopped walking. No, she said gently. You were never just a witness. Jalen turned to her. You believed in me before I believed in myself, she continued. You didn't run. You didn't doubt me. You fought beside me. He didn't speak right away, then he said, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. They stood in silence, the lake behind them, the stars above. Then slowly, Lyra took a step closer. I never used to blush, she whispered, smiling shyly. But ever since that relic activated, whenever I see you, it just happens. Jalen smiled too. Then I'm glad I touched it. She laughed softly, and under the night sky, with hearts full of truth and eyes full of light, Lyra and Jalen stood together, not just as partners in a trial, but as two souls who had changed each other forever.